European Space Agency and with the Italian Insurtech Association. This event aims to bring space and its technologies closer to the world of insurance, exploring the possible interactions between space and insurance in order to increase industry engagement, strengthen the dialogue with companies, and foster the development of value-added business applications. So after a first institutional session during which the recent collaboration between the Fondazione E Amaldi and the Italian Insurtech Association and its objectives will be presented, we will showcasing the co-funding opportunities provided by ESA business applications and Q+ programs, and a high-level keynote speech of an insurtech industry representative and a roundtable with the representatives of the main insurance companies will follow. So I also kindly remind to our community that we have a chat function in order to engage and exchange thoughts with us. And at the end of the roundtable, we will also open up a Q&A session for you to ask questions. So I will now move to the institutional session and welcome on our virtual stage Lorenzo Scatena, Secretary General of the Fondazione E Amaldi and Ambassador of ESA Space Solutions, and Simone Ranucci Bradimarte, President of the Italian Insurtech Association. So please, Lorenzo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cristina. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our guest, to our joint webinar. I am particularly happy with this collaboration with the Italian Insurtech Association, which aims to bring space and its technologies closer to the world of insurance. And as my colleague Cristina said, to increase industrial engagement, create new business models, and develop applications with high added value. This is certainly part of the mission of the Amaldi Foundation, set up by the Italian Space Agency and the IIA Research Consortium, to increase the opportunities that space, through the phenomenon of the so-called new space economy, can produce for traditional non-space industrial sectors by contaminating them with the innovative component of the space economy. And in fact, when about a year ago I was discussing with my colleagues in the Foundation's Business Application Department about the sectors with a high rate of innovation in the near future to approach the traditional non-space market, in our work of, let's say, catechesis, the insurance world proved to have many similarities with the space one. Some of them are known. Both sectors make prevention and monitoring the cornerstones of their business strategy, and both want to offer an helpful, not just useful service to their user, whether they are final customers or not. But beyond this, however, there were many other elements of similarity. They are two highly regulated sectors, and with a traditional approach.
Provando ad aprire il...
Okay.
Excuse me.
No problem, no problem.
Cioè, non la condivisione, il controllo.
Non ce l'ha perché deve dividere lo schermo.
Can you hear me?
Allora, ha aperto il plugin scaricato.
Sorry,
Nicola,
please
can you
digitouch to... Yeah, of course.
Nicola, please mute.
Emanuela adesso mi chiama. Lo so, però adesso non so, hanno bisogno di me qui.
Sorry, excuse me, I think we have a technical problem. Nicola, can you put in mute? Your voice is loud. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Please, Lorenzo, go on.
Absolutely, no problem at all. I mean, as I was saying, there were like many elements of similarities between the space sector and the insurtech sector. I was saying that both are regulated with a traditional approach to how things must be done, and are two sectors that are opening up to international competition, in which, if there is a low rate of innovation, this means for Italian companies, space companies, or insurance companies, could condemn themselves to economic as well as technological dwarfism and to survive in an uncertain geographic and market niche. So how this could be solved? I think through innovation, and in particular through both collaborative and open innovation. In this sense, space startups, which are the archetype of the second of these terms, open innovation, are therefore absolutely part of this paradigm of promotion and cross-fertilization. And here, as Foundation, we want to give our contribution, not opening the way to satellite data, which insurance companies know very well, but offering to the insurtech realities, the skills, experience, and innovative forces that come from the world of space startups, to offer their, not just technique, but our skills for the creation of new business models that also to maintain a high level of competitiveness for our national ecosystem. We are extremely proud of this new collaboration, and we hope that to be able, together with the Italian Insurtech Association, to play a profitable role for both sectors. With this, I thank you, I wish you good work, and I leave the floor to my colleague for this webinar, Simone.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. So thanks for your words, and good afternoon to all the guests. We really a pleasure to welcome to you all. The collaboration between Fondazione E Amaldi Foundation and the Italian Insurtech Association is definitely very important, not just from a corporate point of view, but really in terms of industries. Two industries are, let's say, joining forces, is looking ahead and try to understand how they can influence each other. They have two similar aspects, I would say very different, but one common ground. The common ground is that they are both in phase of big changes. The space industry is definitely in an impressive emerging and explosion in terms of growth and opportunities, and the insurance industry is in the middle of a substantial change. This change is called digitalization, that is not only based on the emerging of the digital customer, but is really emerging on a new philosophy of projecting, implementing, and managing protection services. The space industry will create new opportunities, new needs, new technology integration, and will have a tremendous impact all over the value chain of the insurance industry that, as you probably know, is already worth between 3 and 4 trillion globally, but the expectation on growth from new markets like the space industry will have a substantial impact in the next 5 years. So as Italian Insurtech Association, we are very keen to understand how the evolution of the industry can facilitate the development of the space industry, how the large insurance carriers can prepare in terms of analyzing, implementing, testing, and evaluating new protection services, how technology can be a common layer in order to integrate and create opportunities of exploring new services, as Lorenzo was saying, new business models at all the effect, but also new opportunities in terms of facilitating the delivery of services that well, and also which will be the skill sets, which will be the data, which will be the integration layer that will be required in order to allow new protection services. All this is very exciting. I think that, let's say, both industries have in common a quite optimistic view of the future based on these radical changes. But we also must say that the capability to adapt and to be prepared for the new challenges will be a prerequisite for success, an opportunity to be to have a capability of impacting in this new world that we are creating together. And I think this webinar is in this direction. So it's not only a good sign of collaboration between the Amaldi Foundation, Italian Insurtech Association, but it's also an opportunity to hear important speakers and to have, let's say, a valid meeting and discussion on which will be the opportunities, how we will prepare ourselves, which should be the priority from now on in terms of creating this common ground. Said that, again, thank you to the Amaldi Foundation and to Lorenzo Scatena, and thanks to all the speakers, and thanks to all of you for your presence today. I leave the floor to the speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simone Ranucci Bredi Marta, and thank you, Lorenzo Scatena. I will resume in a collaboration with a substantial impact between Fondazione Amaldi and the Italian Insurtech Association. I will now move on and introduce the first panel. The first panel, keynote discussion as a business applications InCubed Plus, and welcome on our virtual stage Rita Rinaldo, Head of the Studies and Projects Implementation Division at the European Space Agency, and Giuseppe Borghi, Head of the FEA Division at the European Space Agency ESA. So please, Rita Rinaldo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and thanks for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. We had several webinars now together discussing about different themes and how space technologies can be enablers of a digital transformation in a number of sectors. And of course, also the insurance sector, as we heard, is undergoing this revolution, and we believe that space definitely can play a role on this. And we would like to help you, companies, developing new ideas, new business models, how to make this happen. I would like to start with a brief introduction on my side, so I will try to share the contribution that I have prepared. And you can hopefully let me know if this is visible.
Yes, we can see it.
Very good. So I will start talking a bit about, just let me minimize. Okay, talking a bit about the Business Application and Space Solution Program at ESA and its purpose. So you see here the three pillars. The three pillars that are related to, first of all, the social and economic impact. So we are very keen in selecting the best projects that can deliver the highest impact in terms of social value, as well as can have an economic sustainability, so an economic impact and revenues for the companies that are co-investing to develop that application. Second pillar is related to the promotion, so the expanding of the utilization of space. There are a lot of opportunities for which space can be used, can have a unique added value in new markets and through new user communities. And we wish to support companies that are keen to demonstrate it. And the third pillar is about industry competitiveness. So our mission is, first of all, to strengthen and to support companies in Italy, in Europe, to increase their competitiveness on the global markets. And not only on the space market, this is important to say, but in all vertical markets. And for sure, the fintech and the insurtech is one of those. If I'm not able to move next, let's see. Yes, like this. So if we look into our program and the more than 600 activities supported since 2016, when the program was started, you see that we have supported a number of projects in a number of sectors, from the transport sector to agriculture, health, energy, and there are always new sectors appearing, and for sure the fintech and the insurtech is one of the most recent ones, I would say, because of the fact that it's getting more and more data hungry, more and more keen of using digital technologies and data to deliver its services. If I go next and we zoom in on the socioeconomic impact, here we can talk about three main axes: the societal value, that is all around people, the environmental value around the planet, and the commercial value, so around prosperity, and the return that the funding that we put into the project, of course in agreement with the ESA member states, are leveraged on by industry in order to produce sales and to produce additional investments. Our program is very much a good fit for SMEs and startups, as well as more recently new space companies. We saw that more than 80% of the projects conducted under our program is led by SMEs. We are also very proud to say that for 1 million euros spent by ESA and by ESA member states into the project, there were an average of about exceeding 6 jobs created, which is a very high figure. So I think we can be satisfied with that, but of course we want to do even better in the future. We offer to the companies a flexible toolbox. So there is an opportunity to develop a number of different types of projects, from demonstration projects that offer the opportunity to the companies that have already a sound business case and a mature value proposition to demonstrate it in a pre-operational context together with the user communities and iterate also and improve their proposition based on the feedback of the users. But then there is also the opportunity for companies to propose exploratory studies, where the purpose is to explore new ideas, develop the business plan, and connect with the potential users. We have also schemes that grant a seed funding, so a very small token, 60K in terms of value, to start investigation of potential new concepts that address certain thematic areas. And finally, we have also the opportunity to support activities that don't have an immediate application into the market, because of the fact that the market is not yet there, is not yet consolidated, or there is a high technology risk. You can find all these opportunities in our website, so I encourage you to have a look in there. You will also find there some specific and dedicated calls that address specific partner needs or requirements. And I would like to now provide, let's say, some examples of projects that have been developed addressing the need of the insurance sector, starting with the one that we are very proud of. Is called Hydronet, and Hydronet is a service that uses remote sensing data together with crowdsourced data and sensor data from rain gauges and other sensors in order to feed an online portal. So this we started some years ago, and I think it was really a precursor and visionary projects. Now that we are so much talking about data platforms and moving from space data to data spaces, and it's a high priority of ESA to develop further this concept also in relation to digital twins and to allow new commercial applications in this respect. So this was already something started a few years ago, and that has been very successful because it allows to generate automatically reports for in case of specific flood or rainfall events, and really supports state governments, local councils, but also agencies that have the task to develop flood claim reports. You see on the top right the ceremony or when this platform has been made operational, has been launched in South Africa, together at the presence of the Prime Minister of South Africa and the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. It was developed by the Dutch company, and actually this service is now operational in several countries in the world, Australia, South Africa, but also in Germany, to showcase the fact that our program is also really intended to support competitiveness of companies in the worldwide market, so to push to go toward export markets. Now I have a second, let's say, study case, and this is called GEARP. It's a project run by Property Assure in the UK, leading a team of companies who have developed the service called HI Ground, and is about ground instability risk profiling, and provides a risk profile for each property in the reinsurance book for the entire of the UK. So you can see the map on the right with different color codes depending on the risk, and this of course helps with an unprecedented wealth of data insurance companies, both in setting the rights policy premium and also assessing the claim validity. And if I go to the last but not least, this is called the InSat, Satellite and Insurance. Here we are in Poland, so again a different geography, where of course the agricultural sector is of primary importance, is really a resource for the country, and this platform supports, again thanks to the use of a number of data, particularly Earth observation data, the derivation of vegetation indexes and parameters useful for the analysis of the crop condition, and therefore supports the settlement of insurance claims. So again, another example where space data could be successfully used for the insurance sector. Now, moving on, I have already mentioned before some of the, let's say, outlook and priorities of ESA in the future. For sure, one of these is around green value and how to contribute to the green transition of a number of economic sector, from transport to energy and agriculture, and there are a number of goals that are defined in the Green Deal and that are prioritized by European countries, and of course we would like to put space at the center of that, or at least to have it recognized as an important contribution of this transition. And in our view, green finance, and so the fintech and the insurtech sector can certainly be a part of this large initiative. And we have put together a number of areas of services that we are keen of developing in the future. So I really invite all the companies that have good idea addressing these topics to come to us, to submit them, to see if there is an opportunity for using space to complement and to strengthen their business case, because we see that space technologies, GNSS, position navigation and timing that allow high precision of stamping and of geolocating data, satellite Earth observation, as well as connectivity and other digital technologies, can be a driver for all the new needs that are faced by the insurance sector, and in view of the, let's say, booming of this new green finance sector. This concludes, okay, so no, it doesn't conclude, there is one last slide just to say that if indeed you have a good idea, there is a call open now related to this. We are looking at more opportunities in the future, but for sure you are welcome already to submit your idea into a call that is called Digital Transformation and Green Economy, and aims at supporting companies in developing ideas that use the digital tools, AI, machine learning, cloud, digital twins, in support of the different domains related to green value and sustainable mobilities, including green finance. So this was the conclusion, and thanks again. And this is the last slide of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita Rinaldo. Now I will let the floor to Giuseppe Borghi.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I would need to be authorized to share my presentation so I can go through the discussion. I still don't see I've been granted the permission. I cannot. Okay, thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Could you please confirm you see my screen?
Yes, very well.
Okay, thank you very much. So, okay, thank you very much. My name is Giuseppe Borghi. I'm the head of the FEA Lab. I joined ESA 18 months ago. I come from industry. I was the VP of Sales and Strategy in a UK industry since 18 months ago. And today I want to introduce you about another series of opportunity which are complementary to the one that Rita has explained, that are inside the Directorate of Earth Observation, and in particular a program which is called Investing in Industrial Innovations, or InCubed, as we call, and what we do, what are the activities we do for the InsurTech market right now. So just a few words about what is the FEA Lab. The FEA Lab is an organization, is a division of this directorate, which is focused on Earth observation. And our mission is to accelerate the future of Earth observation. So we run all the activity that generate a disruptive or transformation innovation with the goal to strengthen the European competitiveness worldwide. And we are a kind of strange organization in ESA in the sense that we cover the complete pipeline of the innovation. We go from the really beginning, from what is called the ideating. So we discover great idea in our network of industries, of entrepreneur, of talent innovator, or research center, or we develop our own idea internally. Then we have the possibility to nurture this idea with some research activity done internally and externally to test and see if they are good. The good one we can also develop up to a prototype, and the one that are really promising from a commercial point of view, we have this tool, so this co-founding program. This co-founding program that allow us to support entrepreneurial initiative for which they want to develop new products and services, and we help them to go from prototype side up to entering into the market and start to generate revenue. So we have an activity in which we explore the universe of the innovation to find good idea, and then we have an activity where we invest in the good idea to enter into the market. So we call this approach innovate and apply under one roof, because in a single organization, entrepreneur can come to us and say, I have this idea, it's very rough, but I want to go into the market. So then we can support them in all these steps going to the market. just to give you some information about the trends we see in Earth observation. So the Earth observation is really a booming sector. We see in the next 10 years about 1,700 satellites that will be launched. In terms of market value, the market will grow for images and data, raw data, to 2.5 billion worldwide in the next 10 years, so 2030. Even more what we call the value-added services, so the services that are generated from Earth observation will be even a double, so $5 billion. And the trend that we see is Earth observation data that are more frequent. So right now, images taken from space on ground are usually taken every few days or even more, few weeks. But the trend is to go to have image from space to the ground every day or even every few hours. The other big trend is the cost that is going down in terms of both the data cost and the services, but also the quality and the richness of the information you can have from Earth observation is improving very much. And then there is the transformational element of artificial intelligence and other ICT technologies, as Rita has mentioned, for example, cloud computing or quantum computing or other ICT technology that really are changing and transforming the Earth observation, what Earth observation can do for society. And going from pure data, very difficult to handle, to what we call really actionable insights, so information that are let's say, clear, understandable, rich, and that allow to take decision also for non-expert. In terms of industry, we see a lot of vertical integration on companies that before were just delivering images or data, and now they really offer services to the market, and diversification in kind of data from images that are color image, multispectra, to synthetic aperture, to hyperspectra, to thermal images. And in many cases, we see business cases that are developed in synergy with public entities, for example, exploiting the constellation that the European Union together with ESA has developed that is called Copernicus. But from market point of view, what we see is that Earth observation and the space in general is now a very interesting field also for private investors. Earth observation is still a niche market. It's about 4% of all the space economy. But as I said, it's growing 10% year by year. And up to now, we have seen $3 billion of private investment on them, on this sector, and growing. In terms of market size, so revenue, also this one, as I said, is growing. This is a projection that has been a forecast that's been done by Euroconsult. And in particular, if you see the finance market, which actually is finance, insurance, and reinsurance, is the fastest growing market that is expected. So it will grow more than the sector, the Earth observation sector in general. So we are very focused on this part of the sector. And InCubed, this co-founding program right now has 6 development activities that are running into the InsurTech market. And I want to give you few examples. So the first example I want to give you is called the D-Property. It's from Italy. That's an entrepreneurial initiative from Ticinum Aerospace. And here they want to enable the automated extraction of building features, much richer than what they can do, let's say, currently, applying artificial intelligence, in particular machine learning techniques on geospatial data sets. Here, the core market is insurance and reinsurance, and they want to improve the granularity and the richness of the information to deliver, let's say, insight for underwriter, for the pricing model, and for the risk model of insurance and insurance sectors. The next one is called SAT for Flood. It is an initiative, an entrepreneurial initiative from Miramap in the Netherlands. And they are already generated the visualization of global visualization of risk of levee failure, which are based on Earth observation satellite data. So they combine different kind of Earth observation data measurement of the soil moisture, so the concentration of water into the land, or interferometric information from radar satellite, let's call it this, to measure the modification of the height of the land, of the ground, together with other Earth observation data to generate risk maps about possible flood or possible, let's say, disaster coming from a leaf failure. The last one that I would like to propose to you is called a cargo port analysis. It is an initiative, entrepreneurial initiative from Skytech in Ireland. And also this one is for the insurance industry. They are improving a product that they are already on the market, it's called React, to incorporate an advanced modeling by processing a new kind of data, respect the product they have right now, put it together, Earth observation data and navigation, let's say GPS or Galileo data, to provide a more detailed and enhanced information about the risk exposure related to harbor and cargo ports for, again, the insurance, air insurance analysis. So you see 3 of the example of what InCubed can support. InCubed, again, is called Investing in Industrial Innovation. The goal of this program is to support the development of Earth observation innovative and commercial value new products and services. So entrepreneurs come to us saying, we have this idea, we are just at the initial stage, we have a prototype, but we want to enter to the market. So then we can co-found the development cost they have for their new product and service. We have up to now covered in the range of projects from 150 kilo euro up to 15 million. And what do we offer? We offer, of course, co-founding, which is very important, but more importantly, ESA provide personalized guidance from technical and commercial point of view. So we set up a team that work together with the entrepreneur team and the industry team to reduce the risk of development. So we reduce the financial risk by co-founding, but we also reduce the technical and commercial and programmatic risk with our expertise. In this kind of co-founding is equity free, and all the intellectual property remain with the company. So we are not asking, let's say, ownership of the company. We are a kind of venture capitalist that doesn't ask anything. And working in this way, of course, we indirectly provide a kind of stamp of credibility on the initiative that an entrepreneur is, let's say, developing, and of course, access to a facility of the FELAB, of ESA in general, and also we put this initiative inside our large network of other initiatives. We are very, let's say, busy in networking initiative and in putting together talent, private investor, industry, research center, and in this way stimulate innovation. This is an initiative that is a collaboration between the member states, so the national delegation, the European Space Agency, and is the industry. And in this case, ESA behave like a partner. So we are not buying anything, we are helping the entrepreneur to reduce the risk. I just want to mention that Italy is currently the largest subscriber of this program. And I have to mention that Fondazione E Amaldi is working with us very, very well. They are helping us to, let's say, improve and strengthen the pipeline of initiatives that we get from Italy. That's it. That is concluding my presentation. We have, of course, a website that can give much more information, which is incubed.fe.esa.int, where you can find the way to apply to this program and also all the activity that we are currently supporting, all the entrepreneurial activity we are currently supporting. Thank you very much, and I remain available for questions, of course.
Thank you, Giuseppe Borghi, and thank you, Rita Rinaldo, for your contribution that was so full of information and examples. Now I'm happy to introduce the following keynote speech held by Simon Davis, Vice President of Marsh UK, the world's leading insurance broker and risk advisor. So, Simon, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for setting those slides up. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Liliana and Yuri for reaching out to Marsh and also to Tony at ISI, who made the introduction. ISI, of course, are one of the leading small sat businesses who've set up in the last few years and are doing amazing things with the spacecraft that they own and have launched, that we've supported them on. If we could have the next slide, please. So very briefly, no hard sell coming up, I can promise you, but Marsh, I work in the Marsh Space Projects team, which is the specialty division of Marsh McLennan. We've been involved in handling space risks since the late 1970s, and we focus on providing risk management advice and insurance solutions to mainly satellite owners and launch services and really anyone across the space piece. Broadly speaking, insurance is asset cover, property cover, and obviously liabilities. You can imagine there are various liabilities, third party and contractual, that are insurable as well. We have a network of offices in these cities that you can see, and I work in the London office, where we have 12 colleagues who are dedicated totally to space and solely to space insurance risks. The team is made up of brokers like myself. Other specialists have technical backgrounds, engineers, engineering qualifications. We have a lawyer, and we have claims people, and we're also involved in carefully monitoring the export control. And we're client focused as a broker typically is. Our clients are, as I mentioned, mainly satellite owners and operators and launch service providers, and we engage with the insurance community on their behalf to find the right solutions for their needs. So we're paid by our customers. We're not paid by the insurers. We have to know the market well and engage with them closely, but our paychecks come from the customers, and we are very dedicated to their needs. So next slide, please. So there are, a simple picture is really that there are 3 distinct risk phases in a project, which typically use 2 different sets of insurers. There are the ground risks, primarily during the manufacturing phase, the assembly, integration and testing of spacecraft or launch vehicles, transporting them to the launch site, and then activities at the launch site themselves, all the way up until the point of typically intentional ignition or launch. And those risks are classed as ground risks because they are on the ground, of course, and they are insured in a conventional market, so-called marine cargo, which developed from the marine cargo market. And it's really the transportation of goods. They're quite exotic goods, but nevertheless, it's a form of transportation. So the market is there for that. When you get into the launch and the ballistic phase and the subsequent in-orbit phase of the spacecraft, we turn to a dedicated and a different set of insurers, and they carry the risk from either intentional ignition or launch of the rocket through to various lengths of time afterwards, including potentially the operation of the spacecraft on orbit. Next slide, please. just very briefly to touch on the historic rating trends. The premium figures can look quite eye-watering and painful for buyers, but of course, you know, we're in a high risk and highly volatile industry. But the two lines, dotted lines on the chart, if you can see them, demonstrate the historic rating for the last 20 or so years. And we've seen huge fluctuations in pricing, and that's largely been driven by the availability of capacity from the insurers themselves. So, you know, where you have surplus capacity, it's the usual supply and demand dynamic where excess capacity, excess insurers competing for business pushes the price down, but when losses come in, the prices and capacity exits the market, the pricing goes up. And we've the greenish coloured dotted line shows some painfully high premiums that the market charged, somewhere around about 22% for some of the higher valued and higher risked programs. So that's 20% of sometimes values of $250 to $300 million. So the premiums were $40 to $50 million at the market's peak. But since then, and looking down to where we are today, if you follow that green line down, we're roughly, it's actually round about 6 to 7%, perhaps maybe lower for the best risk profiles for launch plus one. In orbit, the risk is substantially reduced. The losses are generally less severe and less frequent. And the in-orbit premiums for 1 year of cover for a satellite, a geostationary satellite, communication satellite, they have been as high as 2.5%, nearly 3% per annum. Again, applied to sums insured of whatever the value is worth, 100 million, 200 million. Whereas today, it's a relatively good market from a buyer's perspective. And I think in 2022, early 2022, the pricing is near around about 0.6, 0.7% for a year's worth of cover. So you're still talking hundreds of thousands or even over millions of premium for a policy. So they're very expensive, but this is what the market is offering, and these are based on the failure rates. Next slide, please. A quick snapshot of the space insurance market, and pretty way midway along that chart, you'll see a name standing out of SATEC, SRL. So waving the Italian flag and having been really a pioneer, one of the pioneers of space insurance is Marco Ramadoro. I'm imagining many of you know. I was lucky enough to work with Marco for 25 years. But his company, SATEC, or his former company now, were really one of the innovators in terms of setting up as they did as what's called a managing general agent, and then also the products they offered and the way they engaged with brokers and their customers. And really since then, many of these other companies that are shown there have tried to replicate what Marco and his team did so successfully, and there are many new, many managing general agents, MGAs, now active. But as a broker, we work with our customers. We then, having understood the risks they need, we take the business to this group of insurers. There are some others around the world, but this is the core group of underwriters who take on the risks, and we negotiate and hopefully get the right panel of insurers where you might need for a typical geostationary project, comms project, with a value of $250, $300 million. You might need 10 to 15 of this group. And you see, just very briefly, you see the different lines, different charts show the in orbit in lighter color and the darker blue in as the launch capacity. So there is a slightly different appetite for those two sets of risks. Next slide, please. So as we heard today from, or just earlier from Rita and Giuseppe, there's there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of very exciting projects going on and applications for the use of satellites downstream, both governmental and from an ESA perspective, but also obviously commercial. And the insurance market is really ready and willing to get involved on all types of projects, whether they're purely commercial or governmental or driven by agencies such as ESA. So the market as a whole would like to take on more risks. The more risks the market can have, the broader the spread of business and the more stable the book, and therefore more likely the pricing, the possibility to reduce prices. But as I mentioned, it is a very technical class of business, and there are a lot of challenges involved, and a lot of this is to do with the introduction of new hardware, and particularly new launch vehicles. You'll see here and be aware of, I'm sure many of you, of the new rockets that are about to be brought to the market, and these are going to be challenging from an insurance perspective. Customers flying on these vehicles will face higher premiums because the history has shown with even with the very best launch agencies, and of course Arianespace being right up there, early launches are challenging. Getting them away safely can be very highly risked, and there have been a lot of failures, or there have been a number of failures that have cost insurers money. So, but the launch agencies are pushing the boundaries. New Glenn, Falcon, Ariane 6, Vega C, obviously Italian flavor there. But the market is going to take on those risks and is willing to take on those risks. There'll be some challenges in terms of capacity that's available and the pricing that is offered. But we have seen this before. These are just new variants of rockets, and the market has insured many others historically. Same way, spacecraft. A number of new types of satellites are being developed and brought to the market, and I think a particularly key one that's going to be interesting is the software-defined spacecraft. But no matter the complexity of these spacecraft and the uses of them downstream, the insurance market, the space insurance market, is really highly adaptable and flexible, and it has underpinned, I would say, almost all the commercial projects that have survived and thrived in the world have relied upon the insurance market significantly. It's played its part, and I believe it will face the challenges that the industry throws at it. It will face them and match them and meet the requirements of the customers. And as we've said, there are so many new customers thinking and doing amazing things, and I fully expect the insurance market to be able to support those. One area that is in a way particular interest, but sadly in a way the insurance market will have perhaps a limited role in, is we're seeing a number of LEO constellations, some headline names, Starlink being perhaps the main one with Elon Musk and his deployment of a huge system there. Sadly, from an insurer's perspective, they do not buy insurance. They don't believe in it, I think, or they don't think it's good enough value for money. And when they're launching so many and building so many so quickly, somewhat able to take that view, but the rest of the projects are likely to have some insurance, perhaps not necessarily ensuring the satellite's performance on orbit, but we expect the launch side of the risks to be insured with multiple satellites on a single rocket. Were the rocket to fail, that's too big a pain to swallow, a pain pill to swallow. So it's the challenging side of the landscape is partly the new technology that's coming and is being brought to the market, but I think we'll overcome that. Another challenge is perhaps the lack of opportunities to write income, to write business, to take on these risks, because the market has changed, as many of you will know. The commercial market has changed for the geostationary business, the telecoms business, and the number of orders for spacecraft has dropped down considerably in the last few years, from a peak of I think it was 24 spacecraft that were ordered around about 10 years ago. And since then, we've seen the numbers drop steadily down, and at its lowest, I think there were only 6 geostationary telecom spacecraft ordered and therefore insured. So the market is somewhat starved of premium income opportunities. There's a willingness to write more business, but there simply aren't the risks coming. And this is partly why the small sat world, the CubeSat business, and the projects that are coming out of that, such as ISI and Planet and the other Astrocast. There's a whole lot of unseen labs. They are buying insurance, but the values are extremely small relative to the geo projects. So we do get heavily involved in those programs. They're much smaller, therefore there's much less earning opportunity, both for the insurers and the broker. But the willingness is there, and the ability to insure those risks is there. And as I mentioned, really to conclude, I think the insurance market has been dynamic, it's been flexible, and has played its part in ensuring the successful ventures that have taken place so far. And I think that was it. So.
Okay, so thank you, Simon Davids. And it's against this background of space and insurance sector that the activity is building up as more and more entrepreneurs and innovators enter the scene and the commercial space sector. So how the needs and opportunities are evolving and how business models can boost innovation. At these questions, we will give some answers. And I'm now happy to introduce to our virtual stage Giancristian Iannelli, CEO and President of Ticino Aerospace, Marco Ramadoro, founder of Ancora Advisory, and Alessandro Francesconi, Managing Director at Stellar Project. So I will turn the floor to our guests, who will briefly introduce themselves. The challenge is at least in 2 minutes, as we are running late, and to present their companies and their role. So please, Giancristian Iannelli, let's start with you. Can you hear us, Giancristian Iannelli?
Yes, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, very well.
So, well, I'm Gianni Iannelli. I'm the CEO of a company named Ticino Aerospace, which is a university spin-off from University of Pavia since 2014, so almost 8 years in the space, in the aerospace sector, where our core technology is geospatial data processing. So actually, we are the one which are taking all this data collected by several satellites and processing to derive insights. And in the company, we developed a service named Deep Property, which you were surprised to see, happy to see by Giuseppe Borghi previously in his presentation, which is a service supported by the InCubed initiative, which I remark to say it is a great initiative for a company like us. And the property, as the name suggests, provides property data for every single building in their neighborhood by applying artificial intelligence to satellite and street level images. And in short, what we are able to provide for every building are the locations and features like presence of solar panels, construction material, number of floors, roof type, presence of basement, and even how many buildings there are in the neighborhood and vegetation activity in the neighborhoods, but also for every single location, understand what happens in the last 30 years. And this is done building by building. And well, this is a very, in few words, what is the property. Thanks.
Thank you, Giancristian Iannelli. Now, Marco Ramadoro, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good afternoon to everyone. Christina, good afternoon to you. Thanks for inviting me to participate in this very interesting webinar. How should I introduce myself? I'm an entrepreneur, I would say. And I thank you also, Simon, for his kind words just about SATEC and the company that I founded in 1993 that became one of actually the only Italian space insurer which is today present in the market. I sold that company a few years ago to a big Italian insurance corporation. And after having accompanied the sale, I've dedicated myself to what I like the most, which is launching new initiatives and new enterprises. So I am very proud to be associated and to be one of the founding members of Stellar Project. We have today here the CEO or the managing director of Stellar Project, which will speak just after me and will participate to the round table. And so I have somehow changed, side from the insurance to the companies that actually would require insurance and have a need to buy insurance, especially in the early stages of their lives, like Stellar or other startups and new space economy participants. At Ancora, which I also founded, is an advisory and investment vehicle that is looking for new ideas, good ideas. One of my oldest friends that helped us out many years ago when we started said that there is never shortage of money for good ideas. So Ancora is actively searching for good ideas to help, blossoming and becoming, good services and great companies in the future. So this is it for me, and pass it on to you.
Thank you, Marco Ramadoro. Now, Alessandro Francesconi, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's a pleasure to attend this meeting today. I am managing director of Stellar Project, one of the co-founders of Stellar Project, which is a small enterprise that was built as a spin-off company of the University of Padova. And actually, Stellar Project develops technologies which aim to fill the gap in capabilities and performance between small satellites of the new space economy and large spacecraft, providing original solution, especially today for telecommunications. We develop small and miniature optical devices, so optical telecom devices based on lasers, in order to create a highway of data transmission in space, like the optical fiber on Earth.
Thank you, Alessandro Francesconi. Now I will start this roundtable on needs and opportunities of space insurtech and the questions in particular, starting with Giancristian Iannelli. So the products of your company are integrating Earth observation capabilities coupled with other disruptive technologies. So on which layers of the insurance market are your space solutions positioned? And also from the capital perspective, which vertical is more valuable and full of opportunities? And again, which other verticals can be reached by your space products in the near future?
Yeah, thanks, Christina. So, our background is in data processing. So we are providing data. So to answer your question, what we did in the past was to have a lot of meeting, telecom with several insurance players in Italy, in Europe, and even US, to understand where the property can fit, in which sector was the best fit for the service. And the main areas got as a response are underwriting and also risk modeling. So this is the one which acquire the most property data today, because sometimes by using statistical data or low quality data or even old data. So this is these two sectors, so underwriting and risk modeling was the one most requested, so the winner. But we also generally open, almost always open, to talk with insurance professional and try to understand the needs and see whether the property can be a good fit or not. So simply as it is, we just have a talk and decide together, try to explain the capability, the advantage, the possibilities, and what is feasible or not. And then we are always discovering new, even from people like me, which are not coming from insurance space. The last point that I found really interesting is that another field still in insurance is the customer experience. So today we can still improve the customer experience by asking to the users, being a private or a commercial, just asking an address. That's it, nothing else. So to avoid all the painful process to ask him a lot of questions about the property, and some of them are not, they don't know how to answer. So as it happens with the motor insurance, we can do the same, but for the building. So like a motor insurance, you can ask, you can derive the data, but just by using the license plate of a car, we can do the same with an address. And this is something which can improve for sure the customer experience.
All right, thank you. And also it's important to consider the bigger picture. So Marco Ramadoro, taking into account your experience as previous executive director of Satec, founder of Stellar Project, and now founder of Ancora Advisory, how space technologies have revolutionized the coverage of the insurance sector's needs in comparison with the past? I mean, can we talk or not about the revolution of the traditional insurance ecosystem and traditional business lines?
Oh, interesting question, Christina. To me, to actually talk about revolution and insurance is kind of very difficult because, you know, in my years of experience in the insurance sector, there isn't any other sector which is more conservative than insurance, generally speaking. So revolution is a word that doesn't really match with insurers in general. Having said that, I think insurance and technology have gone together for a long, long time. But there is a contradiction between how, you know, insurers have paid attention to technology in terms of risk to be insured. You know, if you go back in history, you can start with the marine industry, you can go along, you know, on oil and energy, construction, engineering, aviation, space, to end up into cyber, you know, just the most recent. So insurers have always had a great interest in technology in terms of risks to manage and to be insured, potentially to be transferred to the insurance market. I wouldn't say that they had the same degree of interest in using the technology to improve their insurance processes. So to improve, for example, you know, the data analytics, which is something quite recent in the insurance market with respect to all the other things that I've mentioned. They use the data to improve their risk assessment, to improve, you know, the claims processes, the claims evaluation. This is all very recent. So having said what I said, that revolution is not a word that really goes along with insurance, I think we are now seeing something which is probably not a revolution because it's a very slow process, but a very big change in the way insurers are looking at, for example, space-generated data and the capability of insurers of employing data analysts and dragging from the huge amount of data that they possess in general because of their experience, a lot of useful information to improve their risk assessment processes and the knowledge of the risks that they, just consider for insurance. So it's not a revolution, but I think it's a very significant change that is brought about by the improvement in technology and in particular by data analytics.
Okay. Thank you, Marco Ramadoro. And now, Alessandro Francesconi, the services offered by your company have taken into consideration different challenges of the new space and space insurance market, which is different from the previous experiences. So could you speak a little bit about how are your products managing to anticipate the customers' needs of new space and space insurance market?
Well, I could answer this question from different points of view. I choose the point of view of the customer that wants to purchase an insurance. So this customer, in our case, is a developer of new space payloads in the new space economy. Typically, we are talking of technologies with a very high content of innovation. So as I said before, the technology focus of our company, of Stellar Project, is to provide original solutions enabling laser communications for small satellites. And these aims to fill the gap in terms of telecom performance and capability between small satellites and large spacecraft. However, this is just an example. Other examples exist of companies offering products in the fields, for instance, of imaging payloads, onboard computing, propulsion, and so on. So in this context, I would like to point out that all these developments have limited of no heritage. It is quite normal for something which is new and innovative. And thence, before going into the market as recurrent products, all these technologies need to go through a certain number of steps that are unavoidable, which aim to demonstrate the technology performance in space. But space, we know, is a harsh environment, and it is still expensive to reach. So we see prominent examples of the increasing, of the booming offer, I was saying, of the booming offer of companies which offer in-orbit demonstration servicing using small satellites, but they use technologies that are not much mature, and they come often with many risks and many uncertainties. So we need to go into space before entering the market, but going to space is difficult, it's not trivial. So in conclusion, what I would like to point out, what I would like to say from this perspective is that one of the challenges that we face, that I see, related to the need for the space insurance market to develop new products is to find out something which can support these advancements in business models in the new space economy, and in particular, which can protect the investment of innovators that are often huge for small companies which enter this arena. So this is one point that I see. I have heard something in that sense also by Simon Davis before, and if I change point of view, so the first point of view is the point of view of the developer. If I change point of view, I could mention the growing risk for all, not only for for startups and newcomers, which is related to the space traffic increase and the consequent deterioration of the environment, which comes with the proliferation of space debris. I'm sure that space insurers need new services, consultancies, protocols, procedures, and so on, to evaluate this risk from a global point of view.
Thank you, Alessandro Francesconi, and thank you for all the contributions. And we had the possibility to see that all the InsurTech companies have explored how it's possible to use and scale with the products and services of the new space economy, as well as how is possible to transform the challenge from this ecosystem into an opportunity for both the insurance and space market. So I will now open the Q&A session and move on to see if there are any questions from the audience in the chat. All right, so first of all, we have one. With competitive tenders, we can respond only to one of the thematic calls for proposals or to different at the same time. I think this is a question for the speakers of the panel, ESA Business Applications and InCubed+. So maybe Rita Rinaldo or Giuseppe Boldi, can you take this one? And
not sure I completely got the question, but in general, being this, let's say, co-founding program, so we provide funding as a general rule in Europe, but I think it's more general than Europe, you cannot get two co-founding for the same cost or activity. You can have two funding for the same activity, but covering two different aspects of this one. But of course, you are required to not get two double public support for the same cost, but that's general.
All right. Yeah, I think this was the objective. Rita Rinaldo, you want to?
Yes, I would say, yeah, it may happen that we have a dedicated thematic call addressing one theme, and we have open call that are more generic, where every company can bid. So I would suggest, of course, nothing prevents the company to develop two different proposals for the two different calls. We will be, however, let's say, careful in evaluating the proposal, and also if they are submitted in the context of two programs like InCubed and Business Application, we have joint evaluation and boards to make sure that indeed, as Giuseppe mentioned, there is no double spending for the same task and the same objective. Of course, if a company has two different business cases and business proposition and two different proposals that can be submitted in two programs, in the same programs, in different calls, depending on the objective of the call and on the proposals.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I have a question for Giuseppe Borghi.
Yes, of course.
Just maybe I missed it a little bit, but just was curious to know what is the actual funding of the FEA Lab in terms of the overall capability for supporting.
Currently we have 104 million subscription, of which we have used about 40 million. And there are proposals under evaluation which are actually using up to 90% of the availability. We expect by end of this year, because there is the Ministerial Council of all the members of ESA, to have additional subscriptions, so hopefully get additional availability. We started 3 years ago. We have right now already 80 activity running, so it's really booming, this program.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you again, Rita Rinaldo and Giuseppe Borghi. And now I see another one. For the roundtable speakers, which are your advices for a company that wants to approach to these two ecosystems, space and InsurTech? So maybe one of our guests of the roundtable could perhaps give some remarks on or advices, suggestions.
Yeah, I can give some suggestions. So first, to be prepared, as already Marco said, Ramadoro said before, insurance is not the fastest ecosystem to embrace innovation. I hope it will change. I hope event like this one and the Italian Insurtech Association is doing so far, I hope it's going to open a lot of opportunities. So, but for my point of view, my 2 cents is like to found an insurance company and try to talk with them and do surveys, try to get to understand their need. This is primary before even entering space, because with space you can do everything. From a point of view, you can do many things. The problem is that to convince other people to join the innovation, and the best way to talk with the insurance, even before start coding and doing an algorithm and other stuff. Of course, ESA staff has great even to do some funding to do Kickstart activities, if I remember right, from Giuseppe.
Very well, thank you. Thank you.
Couldn't agree more. I think he's really right. You know, especially for young, you know, companies that don't have heritage to present, it is paramount to approach the insurance market at a very early stage and to fill the gap with the actual experience, skills, and actually make sure that the insurers understand that you know what you're doing and that your processes are fine and tested. And this is extremely important in my view. I don't know whether it responds to the questions precisely, but this is an advice to all young companies that need some form of protection but don't have enough heritage to actually prove in history that they're good enough. So they need to engage with the insurance market at a very early stage and make themselves and their skills and their reliability known very early.
Thank you, Marco Ramadoro. And okay, all right. So I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A. All right. All right, so I think we have come to the end of the webinar. So I would like to thank all the experts and panelists who accepted our proposal to take part in this event and who have provided their interesting views on the space, on the insurance market, on the opportunities, and on the integration between space and insurtech. Also, I would like to thank the organizers, Fondazione E Amaldi and the Italian Insurtech Association. And I would like to inform our audience that we will turn back to these topics in the next month during Primavera dell'Innovazione 2022, co-organized by Fondazione E Amaldi with IPAZZA Research Consortium, and which will be dedicated to the use cases of the new space economy. So if you want, you can follow us on the Amaldi Foundation socials to stay up to date on this upcoming event and other events regarding space and non-space. So thank you all again for your participation and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you all. Have a nice